In the Idaho 4 Kohberger case, prosecutors now want to build something and introduce it as evidence, something called a dollhouse. What?
With the original building torn down, is a replica of the house really going to cut it? I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
And it sounds like they're making a little dollhouse to kind of almost simulate what the experience must have been like, even though they were the ones, well, obviously not the prosecution themselves, but the house got torn down and now they're just trying to kind of recreate it, it sounds like.
Well, it was the University of Idaho and Scott Green, its president, that took over the property after the crimes. The property was donated to the university, and the university was in a rush to get rid of it. They didn't want it. They didn't want the reminder there. And so with the assent of both sides and the opposition of some of the families of the victims, by the way, the thing was knocked down. Well, all right, now 2.5 years later, time for the trial. And the prosecution is building what's known as a demonstrative aid, demonstrative evidence. They want to build a mock-up. But you know what? You can ask me later how I really feel about this. But the prosecution wants to build a mock-up that admittedly is not totally 100% accurate, but just kind of to aid the witnesses. And the defense in this case, as you might guess, is not all that thrilled with the idea. So the first document we're going to take a look at is the defense's question. This is a notice of filing a declaration in support of the defendant's objection to the state's motion in limine regarding the admissibility of demonstrative exhibits and a memorandum in support. So when you go to court, there's different types of exhibits, different types of evidence. There's a chalk, there are photographs, there are diagrams, and there's demonstrative exhibits, which, as the name implies, are to demonstrate a point to the court. And so this is an affidavit that was filed by Kohberger's defense, kind of giving the background about why they're not all that thrilled about these demonstrative mock-ups being proposed. This expert's name is Matthew Knodle. He's an adult over the age of 18. He is a forensic scientist with degrees in microbiology, medical technology, and forensic science, with certifications in firearms, tool marks, gunshot residue, and laser scanning. Here we go. His experience includes over 38 years working exclusively in forensic science, as outlined in his curriculum vitae. He has been retained as a consultant by the defense in Mr. Kohberger's case. One of his key roles in the case is to assist the defense team investigating and reconstructing the scene. So during the course of his work, he had the opportunity to observe the actual scene. He conducted a 3D scan of the scene at the first opportunity provided to the defense. The purpose of the 3D scanning of a scene is to understand and depict the way a scene appeared and to be able to troubleshoot that scene in a 2-scale manner. It is imperative to acquire the scans appropriately and to register or stitch together the different scans accurately to ensure they meet evidentiary standards for further troubleshooting of the events. So he's talking about these scans that were taken, and if people will remember a couple of years ago when they actually knocked the property down in December of 2023, the FBI went in at the last minute and took their final LiDAR scans, and the defense's team was allowed to go in and do their scans before the property was knocked down. So the jury will never get a chance to see the actual property. They'll just see these scans. And as this affidavit is explaining, it's not as simple as just going in there, taking the scans, and hey, bada bing, bada boom, jury, here you go. No, they're done, sequentially, different rooms. They have to be registered or stitched together. And here we go with the experts' perspective as to what the state is doing. I am aware that the state has conducted at least one set of scans that depict only the 2 rooms with the deceased in situ acquired in the first hours of the investigation, and a report that indicated a second set of 3D scans was acquired on or around November 1st, 2023, but that data had not yet been produced until recently, March 14th of 2025. That's only a couple of weeks ago as we record this episode. Prior to March 14th, 2025, I have been provided with only the early scan data that depicts 2 rooms in the house. So, that's fine. They've got the 2 rooms, but what about the hallways? What about the stairs? What about that back credenza, that back porch, the back deck? Recently, I was made aware that the state had intended to use, and what about Dylan and Bethany's rooms? And I don't know.
I mean, even in my personal opinion, I think having the rooms that the M's happened in is kind of useless. I mean, obviously you can see the circumstances, like what happened once someone got into that room, but you don't know any of the lead up going into that. It sounds like they did another scan, but only the 2 rooms doesn't really seem very helpful at all, except for just the imagining what actually went down in the room, but imagining what happened in the room doesn't give the context of how long it took to get to that room, what kind of obstacles they had to surpass, what kind of scares and all of that stuff. So
especially, I'm sorry I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Especially when you stop and think about the timeline that all of this stuff was done in 12 or 8 or possibly even 6 minutes within that really tight timeline. I want to see how the perpetrator, the alleged perpetrator, came in, went up and down the stairs, went to these different rooms. I want to see the relationships between those rooms if I'm on the jury. If I'm on the jury and I knew nothing about the case, hypothetically, of course, I want to see the trail that guy took going up and down the stairs and leaving only one footprint outside of Dylan Mortenson's door. But that's I digress.
Yeah, and the latent footprint.
Yeah, the latent footprint. Recently, I was made aware that the state had intended to use the previously unproduced data from the second set of 3D scans to build a replica model, here we go, of the residence and associated topography for trial. I have only recently been provided with scanned data and have not seen the final product, model, or other data the builders of the model intend to rely upon. I have not been provided with the details as to how the data from the 3D scans will be incorporated into a demonstrative model or how the model may be used in presentation to the jury. I have concerns about any replica utilized for trial that has not been verified as to scale, given the unique layout of the house. Any misrepresentation of where a wall is or where a door was located or what the actual line of sight was will be misleading and could cause a jury to place significance on something that is not accurate. Utilizing a replica that is not to scale will invite speculation and confuse the jury. And I've got to agree with all of that. I mean, if you have some kind of a model that you're presenting to the jury, it is your job to tell the court what you're doing, what you're basing it on. Does this have a reasonable correlation to the actual thing? So now, I know that the case is now in Boise, which is way south of Moscow in the northern part of Idaho. But you know what? If you're putting my client possibly in front of a firing squad, I want my jury to go to the property and see it itself. I don't want these cocktail scans or models or a dollhouse, it's been called. I don't want any of that crap. Of course, it's too late for that. Mm-hmm. Of course, it's too late for that. And Ann Taylor actually signed off, and I think under some pressure, in my view, on the demolition of the property. But I think that it's really, I don't know if it goes so far as an issue for appeal, but in combination with other circumstances in the case, I think this is one thing that makes the state's prosecution a little bit shady, or I should say shaky. So,
Given the context, like you were saying, it's just like if it happened in such a short period of time, being able to walk through the house is going to make a huge difference, especially like we've mentioned in previous episodes, where it's the squeaking of the floor, how the doors sound when they open. A scale or a replica is never going to actually give you the feeling of being inside that house, and especially under those time constraints. So being a juror, being able to go from one room to another, and even just being able to imagine what happened in that scenario between each room with the 15 minutes or however much time you want to give it, I think would make a significant difference. Ultimately, we don't have that right now, but.
So this is the state's explanation against everything I just said. This is the state's motion explaining why they need this illustrative model. Exhibits are inadmissible for demonstrative purposes when they do not illustrate or make clearer some issue in the case or where they are of such character to prejudice the jury. And they cite the Idaho Rules of Evidence, which are pretty similar to the federal rules. A diagram offered for illustrative purposes needs only to be relevant to illustrate a witness testimony. It does not have to be shown to be precisely accurate or consistent with the testimony of other witnesses. So, what we're doing, it's good enough. Your
That's
Honor,
such a terrible argument.
Yeah,
like, just say you'll do it right. Like, oh my goodness. It's just like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just good enough. Like, just do it to the best of your abilities. What do you mean?
And guess what? I know that in Idaho, the U.S. constitutional duty to prove a case beyond all reasonable doubt applies. So saying it's good enough, So Ann Taylor rightfully went back and forth with Ashley Jenkins and William Thompson. And at the bottom, they attached the emails that went back and forth with them. Attorneys are encouraged to speak formally and informally with each other to save the court time. So this is Ashley Jenkins writing an email to Ann Taylor back on February 3rd, only a couple of months ago, and the trial's coming up in August. And we would like to use a scale 3D model of the residence at trial. Well, then why did you let Scott Green knock the place down, huh? All right, I have to calm down. We would like to use a scale 3D model of the residence at trial. We anticipate that this will be on wheels. We anticipate that this will be on wheels, and each of the residence's floors will detach. I have included a picture of the model. Would you stipulate to the entry of this model? We intend to file a motion with the court for its use. Now, unfortunately, we don't get a picture of this scale model on wheels to show you. It's not attached to this particular pleading. So now Ann Taylor responds, "Hi, Ashley. I'm surprised to see this email. I did not see this 3D model drawing in Discovery, nor did I see it in expert disclosures. I need a lot more information, and I need to see this in person, likely with an expert. I cannot stipulate, especially without full discovery and expert opinion. Please provide all materials as well as when and where the model is available for our viewing." So now these are in reverse. These are in reverse order here. So now we get to Ashley sending an email to Ann February 4th. Ann, the physical model has not been completed. All that we have at this point is the drawing, which we were just provided, and you now have. So they didn't build it yet. They have drawings, sketches, plans. Our hope is to have either your agreement or a court order before expending the time and resources to do the actual construction. I note the exhibit list is due on April 21st, 2025, with copies to be exchanged at that point. I should also add that very little details will be demonstrated within the house. My understanding is only walls and doors will be present, no placement of bodies, etc. This model is to help the jury in understanding the layout of the house, which, as you know, is odd. This model could be used for solely demonstrative purposes. However, our thoughts are that it would be beneficial for the jury to have context for the layout while deliberating, which means we would need to admit it as an exhibit. I was hopeful that we could proactively take care of some of the more routine and equally beneficial items, such as this, as they come up. Well, I'm hopeful I'm going to hit megabucks tonight, but
I was just thinking, like, this is such a stupid email chain. It's just like, hey, can we use this? Well, I don't know. Let me see it. I don't know what you're telling me about. Well, it's not real yet. We were just asking for your permission on this thing that you haven't actually seen yet. Just like that. I understand that it takes time and resources. I'm not an expert on making little model houses on wheels, but I feel like this could have just waited until they actually had the model of the house. Asking someone to agree to something that they don't even know what it is or whether or not it's going to be accurate is a tall ask, in my opinion.
Two things jump out to me with regard to this email. One of them is that there's not going to be any furniture, just walls. There's not going to be any furniture, just walls. So how do you get a feel for the je ne sais quoi of a property if you don't have the furniture? Did you ever move out of an apartment and after you move and all the furniture's out, you walk back in the room and you go, oh my gosh, is this what it looked like?
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, for sure.
I've lived in my house now for 30 years, so I haven't had that experience for a while, but I remember moving from one place to another in my college years. And, that would happen. You'd have, 3 or 4 couches in one room, a huge fish aquarium, and you'd have all kinds of, bookcases and plants and everything else crammed into the room so you could hardly get around it. Now, these were college kids, and they had an awful lot of furniture, as we could see when the chief himself drove that U-Haul truck over to 1122 King Road, and they moved it all out. So you really don't get the feel for a room if it doesn't have any furniture in it. I mean, so that's the first thing that jumps out at me. And the second thing is I've done a little bit of set construction in a different part of my life. A long time ago, I did some set construction. And if you're working for professionals and not, just the high school play where you bang things together, you have scale drawings. This flat is going to be this big. This window is going to be this big. And so you build it down to the inch because the director is looking over your shoulder with every nail you pound in. And so if they did these accurate LiDAR, radar, whatever scans, they would have the internal aspect of every inch of 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho drawn out. And so they could accurately, totally scale it down and build, yes, an accurate scale mock-up of this house. But that's not what they're talking about. Yeah, we're going to do our best. It doesn't have to be accurate. And, we're not going to have the furniture in it. So I don't know.
No, I mean, in my opinion, all of this would be a lot smoother had they just gone and made the house. They're asking for permission to admit something that they don't even have yet. I don't think that's really practical. I don't know necessarily if it's standard. I don't know if this is like something that happens frequently. I'm going to presume not, because hopefully there's not many quadruple homicides happening. And then also beyond that, ideally we'd have the actual home to be able to go through. My main thing is just don't come to me with what ifs. Come to me when you're ready.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Or else do what I say. I mean, they have these LiDAR, radar, all the other, cereal box top drawings of this building. So scale it down, 25 feet equals 25 inches or whatever, and show the defense exactly what it is that they're planning to build, and then build it. How hard is that? And I mean, with all the computer assisted design and, that kind of thing that we have in 2025, that would not be difficult. And go ahead.
It's a good point that you have there. I mean, first of all, even me, as a baby computer scientist, I'm doing a project right now where we're building a house, and you have to be able to walk through the rooms of the house and door open and close in OpenGL. But speaking of OpenGL, we do have a lot of software that can be used to rebuild houses.
Right.
Think about all the houses that when you're doing construction, haven't done any engineering courses, but I always see my engineering classmates, they have their 3D models and they can create really phenomenal things. So there's an easy way to make a 3D house, and maybe that's just the first draft, but at least send that, not just like a couple of, I mean, I don't know what the drawings were looking like. Like we said, we don't have them, but the technology exists as it stands right now to be able to make a model of a 3D house that you can walk in and look around.
Wow, you know what? As you were talking, I scrolled up, and this email is to Ann Taylor, carbon copied to Bill Thompson, but their emails are redacted. I was going to email them and say, why don't you hire Lainey to build the model?
Oh my God, please no.
She's a computer person. She's a construction person. She can build you an accurate model. You don't have to tell Ann Taylor, oh, it's going to be close. It's good enough. Good. Did you ever hear that saying? It's good enough for government work.
Literally, it's like one of my biggest nightmares would be to have a government job in computer science, whether it's like software development or even the front end development. It's like every time you go on a government website, it's like the least optimized, least efficient, least quality assurance tested thing that you've ever seen. But even I have no experience with making these houses. I have very limited experience with building something in a 3D space, but you could give me a week and I could figure something out like this out. I don't want the job. Nobody hit me up. I'm not trying to build this stuff. I have no interest in building 3D houses. However, the technology exists that it's easy now.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. So now that let's keep ourselves in perspective here. This was from Ashley Jenkins to Ann Taylor. Well, here's Ann Taylor's response. Hi, Ashley. The issue I have is in the building of a 2-scale model. This relies on expertise. I need to know who is doing it, their qualifications, the data they rely on, and what programs they use to construct the model. I need this information so I can have our expert help me understand the model and make a decision. This was something we requested back in the fall, winter of 2023 when we learned of this. I don't think we have the reports, photographs, or measurements taken to support the construction of the dollhouse. I don't know who is constructing it or their qualifications. I appreciate you explaining why you want to use it, and I also want us to resolve as many issues between ourselves as we can reasonably do. Will you provide us with the background information now so I can work with our experts to understand how this model is being constructed? I cannot stipulate to something I do not yet understand. No, of course you can't, Ann Taylor. I mean, it's your duty to properly defend Mr. Kohberger, whether people out there think he's guilty or think he's innocent. Her job, her duty, her constitutional requirement is that she do her due diligence. And so to stipulate to something that's, well, kind of, sort of, maybe, it's not exact, it's, it'll be close. No. So so she called it a dollhouse. I thought it was funny. But anyhow.
I think it's reasonable. I think that from just the initial premise that you shouldn't really agree to something that you haven't even had the chance to actually see. And even just beyond that, it doesn't seem like, obviously they included the pictures and maybe they don't have everything that they need, but like Ann Taylor said or mentioned, it's something that they had gone over a few years ago. I don't understand. Like, I don't know. I and maybe my standards are like, maybe I'm just a little picky, but I kind of get annoyed when people approach me about things that aren't in reality, or just even with a concrete, solid plan. I think that it's not unreasonable to say, okay, what measurements are we going by? Like, just show me like the exact details. And like she said, what software, like, and all these other details. There's a lot that goes into something like that.
I think it is extremely reasonable in this day and age to demand that if they're going to build demonstrative dollhouses, I think what they need to do is build it to scale 100% accuracy. I mean, kids and modelers and, hobbyists can take a car or a rocket ship or an airplane and they can scale it down 1 to 64 or 1 to whatever. They can do that. I'm not talking about the cheap Walmart train set that you buy at Christmas that falls apart New Year's. I'm talking about professional modelers. They'll do that. They'll actually go take pictures of a building and they'll scale it down and build an accurate model. Now, if modelists and hobbyists can do that, and professional architects can build scale models, I've seen them. Why can't the state? I'll tell you what's going to happen. I just got out my crystal ball, and I'll bet you another cup of coffee I know exactly what's going to happen. And
you really liked that latte.
I really enjoyed my latte. That was very good. But what I was going to say is I'm going to tell you right now what's going to happen. The state will build it. Some guy in a shop somewhere will bang some nails together, and they'll build it. It won't be to scale. Oh well, we didn't have the exact measurements, and Ann Taylor was too slow getting back to us. So here's what we have, and according to the rule, it's close enough for government work. And the court's going to say, okay, that's what's going to happen. Because what's the old saying about it's easier to get forgiveness than permission?
Yeah,
that's what's going to happen.
Oh my goodness.
So,
It's just they've had so much time to get this done. I mean, how long has this all been going on for them to be this fresh into the process? I don't understand. Like, is the implication that they're going to have this house done in like a few weeks? I don't think so. If they've gotten this far and all they have is a couple of drawings, I'm finding it hard to believe. Like, literally just give us a cardboard house initially. This is the rough draft. This is the dimensions we're going to use. Okay, now we're going to go to a more sturdy material. The fact that they don't have anything more concrete at this point is a little bizarre to me.
And don't forget this. Oops, it was over a year ago. The state, Bill Thompson and Ashley Jenkins, certified that they were ready to go to trial a year ago. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
They were ready to go to trial a year ago, and now they're going, hey, Larry, Curly, let's build a mock-up. Yeah, good idea. Woo, 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 woo. That's what it seems like to me. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like also even just like how it says like the furniture and stuff like that. I don't like. I understand, like, I don't know, the way that I see it is just like even something like a bed, having just like a toy bed like that you put in the room to just almost demonstrate, which, getting that to scale may be a little bit more difficult. But you made a really good point with the furniture and just how, like, where is the bed in facing towards the door and stuff like that.
Yeah, so our commenters always have so much to say about this case.
So now that we've discussed everything that's going on with the dollhouse, I want to take a quick look at what our viewers have been saying. So over here, we have a comment from Lucy Murphy. The full transcript of text calls and social media activities from DM and BF have been released. DM did not wake up at 4 a.m. because she heard noises. She added a new contact into her phone at 3:51 a.m. The approximate time DM said she saw the intruder, heard a male voice, and she thought she heard Xana crying was 4:17 a.m., while BF called DM at 4:17 a.m. Then both girls were on Snapchat and Instagram. Messy.
Yeah, and there was you can't in good faith contend that there was any kind of a frozen shock phase if they're going back and forth. And we did a previous episode on the texts. And there's some additional evidence now that we should probably go over in a future episode that, they were pretty active on their Snapchat and their texts and everything else. And so the whole idea of a frozen shock phase has melted.
In my view. God, it's like, all of it's like kind of making my skin curl a little bit, where the discrepancy between being scared and going on social media. The thing is, like, to an extent, I can relate to being confused and not knowing what's happening and wanting to scroll, but ugh.
Yeah. Star New 182 says this picture shows someone that got ready for the day, but he looks sick, sinister look. Different people have said different things about this photograph. Somebody said because he's a church-going person, he wanted to show his family that he was dressed for church, and another person said he always had trouble buttoning his top button. So this show he only did this to show people that now he can button his. I mean, come on, people. It's like I said before. It's like a Rorschach test where you show 20 different people these colored dots on a page, and you're going to get 20 different interpretations. So what anyone thinks they're going to prove to a jury about this picture, I don't know. I just don't.
Yeah, without the context of the situation, I feel like most people wouldn't really bat an eye if they saw this as like an Instagram story. And like I keep saying, I obviously, if he is guilty, that is absolutely horrifying that he is sitting there smiling and thumbs upping right after. But if you don't even have that context, is guys have it tough out there. Guys don't feel cute a lot of the time. Girls are, yeah. Girls are always complimenting each other. Yeah.
I don't feel cute today.
No, I'm always, ladies, comment down below if you think Andrew's a stud, because I always tell Andrew, I'm like, our 40 to 50-year-old viewers, they love you. He's the king. So, you guys, gas Andrew up, please. Comment fire emojis if you think Andrew's looking great today.
Let's move on to number 3. You're doing the odds today.
Yeah. Esmeralda what a name. Very long. At first, I was completely neutral and waited for the investigation and whatever evidence the prosecution may have. Now I have to say that everything indicates BK is the one. If there's anything the defense could try to achieve is a deal to save BK from the death penalty. But I don't think the prosecution will do it. They have enough evidence to get a guilty verdict of the jury. And we talked, in our episode, it's like the balaclava, the K-bar, looking for another K-bar right after. There's a lot of damning things in relation to this that before, and honestly, we're very lucky that this case has moved to a new court, because this is now how we're getting all of this information. We're getting the text, we're getting these sales interactions and stuff like that. So while some aspects of it do make it look a lot worse for BK, at the same time, obviously we're very just grateful to have a lot more information now, in my opinion.
Yeah, a whole lot more is coming out right now. This is from I Come Undone. The knife is a bad fact, but I still haven't seen anything that moves me from not guilty at this point.
It's the exact opposite, the polar opposite. It's like, wow, everything's coming out. It's condemning. Oh, everything's coming out, but it still hasn't convinced me. The thing, I don't hang out with people who use and get knives and stuff like that. They're knife hobbyists. There's knife collectors. I'm not I don't. This is I said this before, but it's just this is supposed to be a criminology student. How is he this dumb if this is the case? If it what do you mean you left this paper trail? Literally just go to the ATM and withdraw cash and just go to the store yourself. Why are you online?
Yeah. No, when I was a kid, I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I lived near Pennsylvania State game lands, and hunting is big. And one of the things we learned in Boy Scouts is how to handle a knife. And I remember other kids in Boy Scouts would show off their knives, and the scoutmaster and the assistant scoutmaster and their parents were watching them very carefully. But it's not unusual for people anywhere in the country, really. But I have experience growing up in Pennsylvania. It's not unusual for people to have knives, and big knives. If you bring down, I'm not a hunter. I'm just telling you that if you are a hunter and you hunt deer, you need a big knife. And that's all I'm going to say about that topic, because I think that's enough to say about that topic.
Yeah, Aneem 8152 IMO, neither Andrew nor BK have overly bushy eyebrows. That kid in Manfield video, Otto, had very bushy eyebrows, so said might be his name.
Anyhow, I just want to point out that we do have 52 countries from which we have received comments. We're kind of stuck. At 52. We were going up and up and up and up and up. But it's been now a couple of weeks since we were able to leave to add to this screen. So if you've got a comment and you are in one of the countries that is not on the list, if you're from one of the countries that's not on the list, let us know. Yes, I did hear from Greece, and I did hear from, in the last week, New Zealand and Australia. There are a lot of interest in this case in New Zealand and Australia, just a lot of interest. So we'll be back to doing the Karen Reed case. They are picking the jury. The last time I checked, they were still, even though they've been doing it for a week as we record this episode, they were still at 10 jurors. That's subject to change. By the time you are watching this, they may be up. They're going for a total of 16 jurors in the Karen Reed case. That would be 12 sitting, deliberating jurors. and 4 alternatives. And it does take time.
I mean, I want to tease real quick because it made, when you said the New Zealand, I'm thinking about just one of our comments saying how few people are in New Zealand. So I just imagine like a group of like a couple thousand people, and they're just all their conversations with each other. It's like they have nothing exciting to talk about. So they're all just talking about all of this.
And all the best to our people in Thailand. They had a horrible earthquake there, and a lot of destruction and property damage, personal injury. People died in Thailand and the country adjoining it. And so we've gotten some comments from that area too. So, all right. Thanks for joining us for this shorter episode than our usual. Give us any ideas that you have on other cases you'd like us to cover. I've been watching the Lori Daybell stuff, but enough other people are covering it. And it's just, she's already convicted with regard to the death of her son and her daughter. And now she's on trial for her first husband's murder. And so I don't know. If you really, really, really want to see it, you can see it elsewhere. And if you really, really, really want us to do something with it, we will do a brief episode on that. And there's so many other cases. So if you are interested in having us cover another case, let us know.
Yeah, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and be sure to comment those fire emojis if you think Andrew is a complete stud.
I don't want that. I just want you to subscribe. We're almost at 15,000. We're almost at 15,000. Get us up to 50. Oh, I'll make a little side comment here about our friend Harsh. Our friend Harsh is now at 99,000. 99,000. So he's trying to get himself up to 100,000, and I wish him the best. I really do. I wish Harsh the best. He's entertaining. I've learned a lot watching him. He helped us in our early days by sending some of his people over here. So he helped us, and I hope that he gets up to 100,000 before we have our next episode. So have a good one.
Whether you are in the grocery store, the gas station, or anywhere else, please remember to be kind to people. You don't know what they're going through. And the same goes for our comments section. We want you to comment, but be nice, be kind, be positive if you can. And thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Have a good one.